There is a sense that this is a story that surely the Tories wanted to go away, and it simply is not.
No, the story is not going away. I don't think it's going to go away for some time. I think it's really unfortunate what happened with the Owen Paterson scandal. Now we're seeing lots more reports of alleged Tory sleaze coming out. On this specific story about Grant Shapps, which came out in the Sunday Times yesterday, I found it particularly interesting because obviously the UK is in the midst of a housing crisis, and I think one of the main charges with this story is that the Transport Secretary was lobbying against houses being built on a particular private airfield in Oxfordshire, which was seen to be in contradiction with the ambitious house building targets that the government has for this country, and the Prime Minister's pledge to make home ownership a British dream for many people in my generation and indeed people across the country.
Boris Johnson has admitted now that he could have handled the sort of row over Owen Paterson better. How should he have handled it?
I think it is very clear to anyone that watches these events, and indeed most of the British public, that this scandal could have been handled much better. I personally think my personal view is that Owen Paterson should have been suspended for the 30-day period. And then if that had resulted in a by-election, then that's what would have happened. There's going to be a by-election anyway, because he's now stood down, and all that's happened is now me and my party look a bit silly with what's gone on. And there are all of these other allegations, like the ones about Grant Shapps, which you mentioned before, which are coming out. So it seems to me to be a massive own goal. But Amber Rudd was speaking to, the former Home Secretary, of course, was speaking to LBC last week about how our whole parliamentary system is in fact built for second jobs, because members of parliament go in as constituency MPs, and then when they get a job in government, they essentially have a second role. And then when they leave the government and they go back to being constituency MPs, a lot of these MPs feel that there is a gap to be filled, and that is when they may take on a second job. So I think there are questions about the whole second job process. I don't know whether or not it's as binary as Labour are making out in saying that we should just get rid of second jobs altogether, because it is true that when MPs do leave the government, they may feel that there's a gap to be filled, and that could be filled by a legitimate second job helping people around the country.
Albie, forgive me, you're appearing a touch complacent here, describing this as a bit silly. People are really angry about this. Voters are particularly angry about this. They see a government mired in sleaze once again. Whether you like it or not, it is your party that seems to be at the forefront of this. Is there a sense of just how seriously the country is taking this, even if the politicians are too worried about what their job will be once they're no longer an MP?
I'm absolutely not complacent about this at all, Simon. I think what we've seen happen with the polling over the past week, we've lost our lead. We're now down 6 points against Labour. You know, it is really important that the government gets a handle of this and we get to an outcome that the British people are happy with. There are very serious things that need to be looked at, and this is not a time for complacency. So I apologise if I came across complacent. Perhaps silly wasn't the best word to use, but we do not look good coming out of the situation, and we desperately need to solve it.
So how do you get a handle on it?
I do not know how we get a handle on it right away. I think we need to look at what some of the best processes could be, maybe taking some examples from around the world, looking at maybe capping the amount of money that MPs can earn as with their second jobs. Perhaps it shouldn't be higher than the wages that they're earning as MPs. Maybe it could be banning second jobs outright, like Labour are saying, but I do think there would be problems with that. Perhaps there are specific types of work which the Standards Committee could look at and say whether or not it was legitimate for an MP to have this second role or not. There are serious issues that need to be looked at. I don't have the answers now. The government don't have the answers yet, but we desperately need to find them.